Okay, so thank you all for being here and listening to this message. I'm going to be talking about something that happened yesterday. We had a wedding ceremony at the Honeycutt house between these two, Gene Honeycutt and Marina Hutchison. Give them a hand. Woo!
Yeah.
They got married yesterday at their house. And before you feel bad about not being there and not being invited, they only invited people they liked. So, sorry, Jack. No, in all seriousness, Gene told me the day before, he said they had a cap of 80 people total that they could fit in a tent that they rented, a big heated outdoor tent. They could only fit 80 people, most of which were family members, if you can imagine, the Honeycutt family and Hutchison family and extended family. So really only a few, several community members were actually present at the wedding. So that's what happened. But he did really want to invite a lot more people than they could have. This was not the wedding. It was a lot more beautiful and significant than this. I just snapped that photo of them. This is the rehearsal of the ceremony. Mr. Pappalardo was officiating the ceremony, and her Marina's sisters were the bridesmaids. Yeah, and there's Gene hanging out. Look at that. There's a photo in the woods.
You can't tell how cold it is.
Oh yeah, look what she's wearing. A little dancing in the evening. We did lots of nice toasts and a lot of tears were shed. So Bob and Miracle right there. There you go. Now the reason I want to talk about this couple in particular, one, because they're very close. Gene is my closest friend for my whole life. I don't even remember. I think we met when we were about 3 or 4 years old, right, Mom? When they moved from Alabama, I think. And he's been my closest friend ever since. We've gone through a lot together. We've helped each other a lot throughout the years and supported each other. But what I think people don't realize when they look at this couple is that they both went through a matching process, an engagement process that was very much driven by, I believe, God, and driven by their original minds, and was very intentional every step of the way. From the moment that Gene actually reached out to Bruce and Bertie Hutchison, Marina's parents, and asked them if they could begin a communication and matching process with Marina. That's the way that they went about doing it. And Marina's parents basically said, probably not, but we'll think about it. And Gene, God bless him, didn't give up on Marina. And Gene, when Gene reached out to Marina's family, the main reason that he did so, he says, because Marina is a phenomenal person. They've worked together with youth, doing youth ministry here in North Carolina. They've worked together, and they're both from NGA graduates. And he just said she's a phenomenal person. And they started communicating based on that. Marina said they started talking, and Marina's like, let me get back to you in a few weeks or something like that. And then they started, and about a year later, here they are, getting wed. Right? Give them a hand. And what's really incredible, and I want to point out about Gene and Marina, is that they're a couple that is able to look past anything that is superficial or external and look directly at the heart of each other. And they base their relationship and their process and their marriage based on who they are as an individual, unique person, child of God. Before anything else, it was you're God's daughter, you're God's son, and how can we work together to create a family and a couple that brings God in the center of it? Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
That is their intention for their marriage, and that's how they're starting off. And there's nowhere but up that this couple can go with that intention in mind. And one thing that they really did, more than, I've been working with the Blessing and Family Ministry for the last 5 years, and more than any couple I've ever seen, they studied the value and tried to understand for themselves the value of the blessing. Truly what it is, not just what the movement or youth ministry or their parents told them what the blessing is about. They tried very hard to understand for themselves, what does the blessing mean to me in my life? And they studied, they did Hundoke conditions together, they reached out to a lot of people, so many people. Gene asked me, Gene asked his parents, Gene asked Crescentia, who's the director of the National BFM, Blessing and Family Ministry. They asked all kinds of people, what do you think is the value of the blessing, to try to kind of get a broader understanding of the blessing. And I think that's so wise and an amazing thing to do, and I really appreciate that they did that. So that's that. Gene and Marina, the reason I'm not talking about just because it happened yesterday and it was a beautiful ceremony. The reason I'm talking about it is because of something that's been on my mind and my heart a lot recently. Yeah? And that is, I went to a global matching festival a few weeks ago in Korea. Does that sound exciting?
Yeah.
Do you guys have any idea what this might be? Global matching festival? It's basically, it's a matching convocation for blessed families to come together internationally in Korea and kind of introduce each other's child to different families and get to know each other. And we were able to bring many different candidates and profiles from America, and I was able to present them in Korea. And it was a beautiful, beautiful occasion, and the intention and the idea and the purpose behind this thing was really, really touched my heart. The reason they did this in the first place, International Headquarters organized this because they realized that many of the blessed families in our movement are rather closed-minded to the idea of international matching. Or if they do have an idea of what international matching is, blessing, international marriages, they immediately think white American, white European, Japanese, Korean. And they don't realize that international is a whole world filled. There are incredible candidates in Africa, South America, Southeast Asia, all of the world that are international and speak all kinds of languages, especially blessed children who grew up in intercultural environments and homes. They speak 3-4 languages sometimes. So they really want to open the minds of particularly parents who are going to this thing, who were going kind of looking for a specific kind of person, maybe a specific kind of race, specific kind of height, age, but they're trying to open their minds to how many amazing candidates there are around the world. Okay, stay with me. So, I went here, I presented about 10, maybe 30 or something candidates from America who were of different ages and different races and whatnot. And what was really shocking to me is that parents gravitated heavily towards the white male candidates. I had one guy named Gabriel, I presented him, and as soon as I finished, I had 8 different parents approach me about this guy, Gabriel, who was a nice guy. Yimi's laughing. But they came at me like it was a Black Friday sale. They're like, me, like this, right? And I'm like, whoa. And then one guy was like, I was here first. Like one day I was like, I was here first. So I was like, it's not a first come, first served thing. You have to, let them decide too and communicate. This was like the mentality that some of these parents had. And I was really shocked, and I knew that this was a thing in the world, but I realized for certain that we have a cultural mindset in our culture, in our movement, but also in the world in general, that when we're looking for a partner for ourselves or for our children, we tend to immediately think of the more superficial things about a spouse. Who is the most educated? Who is the most attractive? Who is the right height? I can't tell you how many people were just like, no, based on the height. Right? How many of you, when you went to matching, if you were matched by your parents, went with any idea of they have to be a certain height? Jack, you?
I had a different requirement, but
It wasn't height, okay. As long as it was a woman, right? As long as they had the right parts, yeah, no. Okay, so I went to this thing and I was just blown away. First of all, that height, I'm not trying to complain, I'm trying to paint a picture about the current cultural situation that we have. And it's kind of like, I'm trying to go back to not who's the most educated, who's the most attractive, who makes the most money, who is the oldest, who is the youngest, who is the most complexion-wise, lightest or darkest or whatever. I'm trying to go back to what is actually the purpose of this whole marriage thing in the first place. And this has got me thinking about, working with Jean and Marina and working with these candidates and their parents in Korea at the International Festival. What is actually the purpose of marriage itself? What is the purpose of your marriage and your blessing or your future marriage? And I'm not talking about the institution of marriage, okay? I think we know, oops. It's not working now. Okay, we're good. Can you just go to the next one? I'm not talking about the institution of marriage, the governmental body of marriage itself, the document, the signing. I'm talking about what is the purpose of God's original design for and purpose of a man and woman coming together in the first place. Before any of history came, what is the purpose of, this is the little matching festival I want to talk about. What is actually the purpose of it? And if we understand the purpose of what marriage and the union of a man and woman is in God's eyes and God's vision, I think we can really get to creating amazing couples and blessings and families in this world, currently for ourselves, but also for our future generations. For couples like Marina and Jean, who looked past anything else. They're beautiful people. They are. They're both amazing, incredible people. But they looked past anything that was external. I even asked Jean, I was like, when you were looking for someone, did she have to be white? Did she have to be from North Carolina? Did she have to be beautiful like Marina is? And he laughed. He was like, no, not at all. He was looking for, across the globe really, for candidates and people to be married with. So I was asking this question the last few weeks, and especially yesterday. So I came home from the wedding, and I opened the Chunsan Young to read about this. Okay? John Pace, could you read? Could you volunteer?
Yes. Marriage is not a simple matter of a man and a woman of marriageable age coming together and combining their two lives. Marriage is something built on the basis of sacrifice. The man must live for the sake of the woman, and the woman for the sake of the man. As you continue to live for the sake of your spouse, your selfish mind disappears completely. The heart that seeks to sacrifice this way is the heart of love. Love is not a man and woman meeting each other and having a good time. Love is offering up your life. If you marry, you must do so on the basis of your determination that your life is for your spouse.
Jude. That is from True Father's autobiography, actually. As you continue to live for the sake of your spouse, your selfish mind disappears completely. I read that a few years ago, and this blew my mind, because all my life, or all my marriage, I've been trying to be less selfish. Can you relate to that? Whenever we make a mistake, or make our partner upset, or we say the wrong thing, I do it all the time, or we're insensitive to our spouse, I always try to think, how can I do that less? What True Father is saying clearly, the more you continue to live for the sake of your spouse, your selfish mind will just disappear completely, based on that love. Uncle John?
Why is marriage so important? It is the path to finding love. It is the path to knowing what love is. It teaches about life. Marriage joins the life of a woman and the life of a man. The purpose of marriage is to synchronize the man's heart and the woman's heart to perfect their love. The wedding ceremony is a proclamation of the couple's commitment and determination toward that goal. If you start with the goal to perfect your love and heart through your married life, you are on the way to fulfilling the ideal of family.
In the Unification Church, We call marriage the blessing. The life of a married person is such that a man and woman who had been alone on their path to seek love abandon that path and stand as complements to each other, confirming each other when they feel lonely, sharing joy together when they feel joy, and giving each other strength during difficulties. In this way, one becomes the right foot and the other the left. One becomes the right hand and the other the left. Together they praise God, saying that they are moving forward with God's love superimposed on the theater of their lives. That is so poetic. So to me, the purpose of marriage is to develop our capacity to love each other. And if we think about that in a practical sense, I think I've shared this story before, but when my wife and I, she left, she's not here right now, when we started living together in Japan, in Tokyo, and we were living in this crazy, expensive apartment, I was making like $2,000 a month, and for some reason, I thought it was a good idea to get an apartment that costs $2,000 a month. I know, right? I was still in college, actually. Right? That's crazy. So it was really stressful, and financially, and just everything was. Our relationship was just kind of beginning. So we're just trying to figure out who each other was, and we were just at one point arguing and fighting so much that I just left. I just ran out the apartment. I was just screaming and just angry and just yelling at Japan in general. And then so having that experience, I kind of came back and we talked about it, and I realized that when we first committed to each other through the blessing and we committed in our marriage, we determined for ourselves that no matter what difficulties we faced as a couple, we would use those difficulties as opportunities to grow ourselves, to develop our love for each other, capacity to grow. And I realized that through that experience with Hitoe in Japan, that I had so many concepts about what marriage was. I was very superficial, actually. I was, young, and I had concepts about what the ideal couple looks like. They never fight, first of all. They look amazing. They always post photos on Facebook about how much fun they're having, how much they're traveling. I had all these concepts about what a great marriage is. And I was just brought down to earth during that time, and I realized that as long as I can come back home and say to my wife, today I love you more than I did yesterday. As long as I can accept her more each and every day and expand my capacity to love her and love other people, then that's the purpose of marriage. Is it not?
Yes. Yes.
And as your father's saying, in another way of saying it, is developing our God-given heart, to develop God's heart and God's love.
Yes.
So you as a couple can see yourselves as God's representatives in God's love in your family, in your community, in this world, in this country. That everywhere you go, you have the authority given to you by God as a couple, as a blessed family, to give God's love to everybody around you. And that, to me, is the original purpose of God's marriage and God's blessing, is to become those people. And see ourselves as those people, no matter what situation we're in. No matter what difficulty we're having in our spousal relationship, we are all born with that purpose and that possibility and potential to become that couple. Even if you're single, you have that to look forward to in your marriage, is to become God's love and heart for this world. Aju?
Aju. Amen.
And I believe that is the purpose of why God put man and woman together, is to bring His love and His heart to all people through the blessing, which is so unique, and that is the purpose, and that is the first and foremost intention for why people get together. Look at Gene and Marina. There's no way on earth they would marry each other, ever. If you knew them from this community, they grew up here, they have no memory of each other at all from childhood because they just blocked it out of their mind because they just don't care about each other. And here they are committing each other to love each other, to serve each other, to be humble to each other, to work together, to create a family. They want to have kids. I was like, when do you want to have kids, Jane? He was like, oh, probably, after a year. I was like, oh, that's great. Usually people, in today's world, like maybe after 5 years or something, we'll start thinking about having kids. But they want to have kids. They want to be great parents. They want to change the world together. And that's really the beauty of our family and our blessed families. Right? So congratulations, Bob, Ryoko, and Thomas, for a wonderful new family lineage. Okay? All right, thank you, everyone. Please go home. Have a great week this week. God bless you all. And, thank you.
Before I give a report about what I experienced, Friday, my wife and I were selling our wood roses in Fayetteville, and we drove up, and on the way back we went to Clayton, and there's a person who's running to become the lieutenant governor. He's a big black guy. His name is Mark Robinson, and he's very conservative, and he put on some kind of one of these events where he invites people to come and have dinner, and then he'll speak to them and say why I want you to vote for me. And he stood up and he said, I want to make it very clear. First and foremost, I am a man of God. I put my faith first, my faith in Jesus Christ. Second, I'm an American. And I'm an American. I'm not black or, I'm not African American. I don't speak any African languages, blah. He said, third, I'm a conservative. And I have conservative values. And fourth, I'm a Republican. And then he proceeded to explain, and he told about his life, why he's so connected to God, why he loves America so much, why he's a conservative person, and then why he's connected to the Republican Party. Well, afterwards, to make a long story short, I walked up to him, and I said, oh, really, thank you very much. That was really beautiful. My wife, wanted us to come here. We're part of I don't know if you know Reverend Moon. Reverend and Mrs. Moon, my wife and I joined his movement. He founded the Washington Times. And he goes, oh, Reverend Moon. He says, yeah, I know his son, Sean Moon. Yeah, the Rod of Iron Ministries. Yeah, I was just up there on the radio just a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, we're really close to each, and love. And oh, that's wonderful. That's great. And I said, yeah, that's right. Then we come home, it was great to meet this guy. Obviously, he's from North Carolina, and I want him to be the lieutenant governor. If Pat McCrory became the governor, and he was talking about, our children at schools, what they're being taught, and how important the lieutenant governor is. Anyway, but the fact that he knows Sean, and the fact that he knows about, our movement and the Rod of Iron Ministries, because he's very much about the Second Amendment, gun rights. So I was very inspired by that. So the next morning, this is Friday night, the next morning, we get up and we rented a car, and we had guests. Beverly Yuckeson came with us. Dr. Ayesh came, and Beverly Yuckeson had a minister in Maryland, or I think she was from Baltimore or Maryland, that met us there. So even Beverly had a guest, and Caleb, I can't pronounce his last name. He's the professor of religion at Campbell University. He's the head of the religion department at Campbell University. He drove on his own. He had told us when we went into his office to visit, and we told him all about Reverend Moon, and I love to bring unity among people, and he's African, not African American, African. And living in America now. He's a wonderful guy. I mean, and he's the head of the religion department, very smart. He said, I want to go, I want to go. So he came on his own, drove there, and we met him, and he was right there. I mean, you know what it's like. You go into someone, they say, yeah, I'll come. Okay, see you sometime in the afterlife, you know. Well, no, he came. He drove right there by himself, and he was so humble. He sat with us, and he loved every minute of it. And I have to tell you about this event. This event really was, it was on a slightly higher caliber level than what we're used to experiencing. And, you know, Archbishop George Augustus Stallings and, you know, Bishop Reverend Abernathy and the pastors, and they had a Republican and a Democrat get up on the stage and have a dialogue with each other, how we can bring unity. And then they had, you know, the black Bishop Stallings and the white minister get up on stage and talk about how we can bring unity between the races. And each of these people that shared, they shared so deeply. And always the overriding message was that God is our parent, God is love, and we have to realize that we are one family. Of course, this message is driven by our members more than anything else, that God is the parent. And it's exactly why we get married. You know, we're getting married because we want to become people who can embody the love of God. And so, unfortunately, Caleb couldn't stay the whole time, but as he was leaving, you know how Sharon is, she jumps up and she made sure that we did the little blessing ceremony with him in the hallway as he was leaving. And then Sanjanim got up to speak. And this is every person that drove with us in the car said the same thing. This was the highlight, Sanjanim's sharing. And she shared very deeply and very personally about her love for America and her commitment to bringing unity. And then she started talking about her personal life. And she said, I want to talk with you honestly. And she talked about living with true parents. And she talked about how, as a little girl, she felt so frustrated because she couldn't be with her parents. And she couldn't have a relationship with her parents that normal kids wanted. And that she grew up in this very strict religious family, you know. And she said, and then I wanted to leave. You know, as I got older, I decided that I wanted to leave this, you know. And she said, and a father came to me. As you know, she said, as I was leaving, Father came to me and he just spoke strongly to me. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, you know, please forgive me. You have to, I'm sure you'll be able to see this for yourself. You have to watch her own testimony because obviously it was filmed. But basically she said, Father came up to me and said, the truth is the truth. Nothing is more important than the truth. And someday, no matter what happens, everyone is going to know the truth and come back to the truth and know the love of God. And this was almost like what I understood is Father was telling her this as she was leaving home, kind of running away, getting away. And she said, as time went on, she came to realize, and she was starting, and she was with tears. I was sitting there crying myself, and I didn't know why, because it was just such a deep moment, and she said, and I realized later how much my parents sacrificed to save this nation of America, and how much, you know, God is love, and how much the love of God is the truth of God, and that is the subject, and that is what brings us together. And her speech and her everything about it was so beautiful, you know, and it was so moving and so profound. And this room was filled to overflowing. There was a whole, you know, and there were a lot of the guests from Baltimore, and there were a lot of good people there, people that were there for the first time, and you know, religious people, and then Bishop Noel Jones, and they got up and they really testified afterwards about why, you need to come to December 28th. We need to bring the 30,000, to hear Mother Moon. And they were very clear about, Mother's role as a mother of peace. So the event and Sanjanan's sharing was so profound and so deep. And I was sitting there, and I knew even at this moment in North Carolina, at the Honeycutt's home, I knew that Ron Pappalardo was there, and you guys were having this wedding ceremony between Jean and Marina, and I even, in the back of my mind, I'm understanding, the Hutchison family. From one perspective, some of us think, oh, they're not connected to us anymore because they're part of this sanctuary church, But here's the family, our brother and sister coming together in marriage, bringing this kind of unity. And we're hearing these testimonies about how important it is to unite, centered on the love of God. And then I was remembering about this Mark Robinson, oh yeah, I know Sean Moon, and I'm part of it, and I'm thinking, God is really working. God is really working to bring unity to people, and that ultimately, the core is that God is love. That what true parents brought to us, and what true parents have done, is they have liberated us to be able to become sons and daughters that can unconditionally love people. Beyond race, beyond culture, and beyond doctrine, and beyond the temporary frame of mind that we sometimes find ourselves in. Even our children sometimes stand up and say, oh, I hate you. I'm so frustrated, or whatever. No, even Sanjana was sharing directly about her experience with her own father and mother, right there for all of us. And everyone understood deeply what she was talking about. And it was so profound and so deep. And yet, the truth is that God is love. And that her parents did love her, always. And now, because she knows the principle, and because she sees what's going on in the world with true parents and what true mothers trying to do, she understands and she completely supports. And everyone in that room, I can tell you, everyone in that room was moved. It was one of the deepest experiences that they probably have ever had, with God and with being together with people of different races and religions and, politics, etc. So I just want to say, in the last, couple of days, in the last week leading up to this event, really good things are happening. Really, God is love, and God is the truth, and we should really be confident. We have to be confident in our role. Exactly what Benji said. We become married and blessed so that we can learn how to love, because we have to be able to bring that love to everyone. Only people that are connected with true parents can do this. Okay? In the car on the way back, I spoke very strongly to Beverly and to Dr. Ayesh, and I said, you need to understand something. Only someone that's connected with true parents can bring these people in this room together like this. I said, I've been to ecumenical events where people get in the room and they pretend to talk with each other and share with each other, but all they're doing is tolerating each other. They tolerate each other because deep inside they can't really get along with each other because they can't overcome their doctrines and their differences. I said, but in this room, when you experience this in this room, you're not experiencing toleration, you're experiencing true love. It's true love that God has liberated us and has been able to bring to us. So, sorry if I'm taking too much time, but sometimes things are very important to hear. And so God is really working in an incredible way. And we need to really recognize that and pray. Pray. Because the Spirit of God is moving. And even, it's surprising me. I'm a really, critical and I'm negative a lot of times about these things. You know, I get frustrated if I look too much, but I can tell you, it's amazing. God is so much working in so many ways that we have to really pray and be grateful. And those of us who know true parents, we just don't understand. We don't understand how blessed we are. We just don't get it. That's really sad. We should really pray about it. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so blessed.
Would you?